I just heard a woman on the BBC saying that the Taliban effort to secure sex slaves for their fighters is not in the Quran, and by implication, I think she means it's not Islamic. I think it is in the Quran, as are the 69 virgins that you get if you fight for Islam. Remember that thing, 69? The funny thing about that one is that it was discovered that the translation might not have been right. You might not get 69 virgins when you go to heaven for fighting for Islam. You might get 69 raisins. Be a surprise, wouldn't it, for those guys? All that fighting, and they get to heaven, all they get is raisins. But I think 4 wives is in the Quran. You can have up to 4 wives if you can support them. Just to be fair, I'm pretty sure that's what it says. But the Islamic model has always been polygamy. If you want a nation to grow, what you want to do is you want to create a situation where the dominant males, I guess you could say, can have 1, 2, 3, 4 wives. And then the rest of the men in the civilization don't have any wife at all. So what you say to them is that if they wage war against the infidel, then they can make slaves of infidels and have 3, 4 wives or sex slaves. That's how Islam expanded, partly. Great architecture in Islam, there's great music. But, just to be realistic, they are probably like fundamentalist Islamists. I don't know how many of them are left in the world, but there's enough there. And I just read that Canada's going to accept 20,000. I think that's fantastic. I think that the world should somehow let all the women out of Afghanistan. And make it impossible for them to reproduce. That's funny, isn't it? The reaction from Iran would not be pleasant, I think. But, the world can't do anything about that situation in Afghanistan. The population isn't even that big. It's mountainous, and there's caves, and they're dedicated warriors and all of that stuff. But I don't believe that the combined forces of the world's military couldn't mop up that mess. It's not the will, I guess. Wow. Is global warming a doomsday cult? In my time, I've seen the late great planet Earth. I don't actually know what it talked about, but it was a doomsday prediction, and it was really popular in the 1970s. The late great planet Earth. It was the best-selling book at the time. We had the threat of nuclear annihilation, population bomb. There was talk about an ice age. And global warming may be functioning like a doomsday cult and actually happening. Those two things are not mutually exclusive. I find it so scary, especially looking at British Columbia. Maybe it's because I pay more attention to British Columbia, but God, if I was living there, I'd be convinced. I'm convinced anyway. Apparently on the Mexican border now, there are people coming across from 100 different countries. And it's way worse than it's been in decades. And apparently non-profits are picking them up and distributing them around the country. And I just wonder, really. So the cartel lets them across the border, and somehow the cartel gets to, or the cartel lets a few of them go, and people are distributing those illegal immigrants across the country, and they're not getting paid. I bet a lot of them getting paid in coke. I bet a lot of them are wonderful people doing exactly what they think is the right thing, but I bet a lot of them are getting paid in coke. Yeah, the Hunter Biden thing. I mean, he was making pornography with himself as the star, just to be clear, right? Absolutely cracked out of his head on cocaine for years in a way. And he's hiring prostitutes, producing his own pornography with himself as the star. And his idea is that he wants to sell that. I imagine that would be worth a fortune. Wow. Yeah, his problem is, his idea is this, that he wants to sell that. And in the new tape that's been released is that he's disappointed that he can't sell his own pornography and sell it. We weren't allowed to talk about it for like 2 or 3 months. I wonder if the mask mandates are helping to, or causing an increase in crimes. Because it'd be pretty convenient, isn't it? Put on your mask and go out. It's harder for you to identify you. People would be less suspicious because you have to wear a mask. I'm just curious. That's the whole thing about self-censorship. In an authoritarian state, they shouldn't have to worry that much about people saying things about catching people saying things they shouldn't, because people don't say the things that they shouldn't. If saying the wrong thing about some issue is going to cost you your job, and the job market is tight, and your kids want to go to school, we won't say it. This has been argued and demonstrated thousands of times. It's called cancel culture. Some people are saying that we shouldn't be using the expression pregnant women. I think and as the parent, the birthing parent, or I don't want to get rid of gendered language, so they want to get rid of mom and dad and pregnant woman and. Okay, yeah. When you look at this stuff and you think that it's absolutely so crazy, and a few more people are coming out and saying this, because there's a good portion of us just panicking. We think that the world is headed down the toilet, and it is. But you had fascism, you had communism, you had the evangelical Christian types predicting the end of the world, and that wasn't that long ago. They're absolutely nuts. I mean, there's a place downstairs from where I live. It's an Aboriginal community center, and they're really wonderful people, but they're Pentecostal Christians, which means that they think that they can make noises and that those noises express the will of God. So you'll go down there and they'll speak what they think is in tongue. God is moving their mouths, and somehow God is allowing them to understand, I guess. So I said to them, 听起来像意大利文, which means it sounds like Italian. And they said, 你怎么知道? 你从意大利来的吗? Which is, how would you know what Italian sounds like? Are you from Italy? People can be so crazy, and they can function, and they could be running around, and perhaps not doing that much damage, but these woke people are doing a lot of damage. Um, I wonder, what's been done in relation to the Me Too movement with regards to persecuting people who make false accusations. People are normally not persecuted for false allegations. That's a strange thing. Last I checked, in the United States, they weren't anyway. I doubt that they are in Canada. But this is a special case of crime simply because it's so common. It's libel, slander. If they make that kind of accusation, you're going to have a tough time. So the people that I listen to say, like, never apologize for anything, because forgiveness is not a big part of their thing, right? They don't have any gratitude, and they're not forgiving. So they won't have any gratitude for all the work that you've done in the past, and they won't forgive you for something that you apologize for. So by all means, don't apologize for something you didn't do, but definitely don't apologize to these people, because it'll just be proof that you did it, and they'll keep hounding you. It just doesn't work. They've tried. I apologize, you get fired anyway. Gratitude and forgiveness, big difference between social justice and religion, Christianity at least. We never should have arrested Meng Wanzhou. That was a total mistake. And so they're saying, oh, we have to follow the rule of law. Well, you didn't follow the rule of law in the SNC-Lavalin thing, but you followed it in this thing and picked a fight with an enormous bully, and that would have ramifications for Canadian people. 2 guys in prison, 1 guy getting the death penalty. Just a generalized bad feeling between them. You don't want to just poke a bully, right? And that's what we did. Okay, I guess that's it. Only allowed to upload 15 minutes, so